Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, and my friends, this is my General Shao tips and tricks guide. As always with these tips and tricks guides, this is going to be a big long video. So there's timestamps for everything. Skip ahead to whatever makes sense for you. Leave a like if you could. But yeah, we're going to be going over everything General Shao in this video, from the basics to advanced concepts and everything in between. So that said, before anything else, let's start with a brief overview of the character. So to start with, why General Shao? Well, he is the game's resident big boy, so if you like picking big characters in fighting games that do big character things, he is your pick. And with that in mind, he is also an above average health character. Most characters in the game average out about 1,000 health. Shao has 1,100 health, which means he can take a little bit more damage before he goes down for the count. And with that in mind, Shao, he's got the big buttons. He's got a lot of stuff from a good range. He also has a pretty decent combo structure, not the most damaging character in the game by any stretch. But what he does have that's pretty unique is he's old school in that he has a very proficient 50-50 game. In that you'll have to keep guessing low overheads, overhead lows, all that kind of stuff. He has that built-in, kicked into his moveset, and he's just, frankly put, one of the best characters at that kind of game plan. So if you like the enemy to constantly be guessing low and overhead, he is that character. And add that with the fact that he has the range. The axe is not for show. It's a big part of his moveset, but also he can dump it out whenever he wants, as he's a soft stance character. He has axe stance and no axe stance. Now, what I mean by a soft stance character is his stance to no axe stance. While it does give him a completely new and unique moveset full of completely new and unique moves, it is time relegated. So you cannot stay in the stance forever, versus more of a hard stance character where you just switch the stance at will, and then you have the whole new moveset. You have to give up your first moveset with a specific move, and then you're in your new moveset for a little while before you eventually go back to the axe stance, either by timeout or you can manually just re-enter axe. But still, the differences between axe stance and no axe stance are very profound. With axe stance, he has the long range, right? As we mentioned. With no axe stance, his range is very minimal, but he basically becomes a berserker. His frame data on all his moves change. He gets all new moves. His mix-up game, in a lot of ways, gets better, although less damaging. And he gets pretty wild all in all. I do like him, as I find the magical term of player expression in characters, right? He is one of the characters that fits that, because there certainly is times you want to stay in axe stance, times you want to dump out and go into no axe stance, but it's not just there's always the best option. The character actually is multifaceted enough that depending on the situation, you could argue this option's better, and it's up to you, the player. So there's no necessarily one best fixed option in a lot of scenarios, which means you get to play him how you like versus just here's the one right fixed way to do it. Also, some other small things as well. As far as, say, movement goes, he does have a very proficient wave dash, although, to be honest, like, his base dash is really good too. So if you can't do wave dashes as well as some other people you've seen online on the internet, don't stress out too much, because the base dash absolutely works. This is less gameplay and more just aesthetic, but he definitely has a very strong feel of power in his moveset. You can definitely tell he hurts when he hits you, and that's really fun. It's very satisfying to play a character that's, well, visually satisfying, and to me, he is a very visually satisfying character, if not the least of which, like, the fact that he just gets up and punches you, showing that he's bigger than you, all that kind of stuff. Like, I like that. So it's the little details. But that said, so that's a bit of a basic overview in the character. We're about to get in the weeds, so strap in. So first, let's talk his moveset. So let's go over his special moves. We're going to break this into axe stance and no axe stance as well. He has two completely different special movesets. Now, the first base special move is a returning move from Mortal Kombat 11. That is Dark Energy, and it's the buff. So unlike Mortal Kombat 11, this move's actually worth doing, because it's so much faster than what it was in Mortal Kombat 11. Mortal Kombat 11, you could go for the buff, full screen, and most characters could still easily punish it. That was that slow. It is so much faster in this game. If you have a brief moment to spare, it's worth going for. So what does it give you? So it's about what you think. It's a damage buff. So say basic uppercut 140. We apply our buff, boom, 168. And generally, and keep in mind here, the axe buff only affects axe normals. So if you do something with an axe, it'll buff it. So say sweep is 84, only 70, right? But say I do stand 3, it's going to be 50 no matter what, because it only buffs moves with the axe. And generally throughout most of your combo structure, if you have the buff live, you'll, for the most part, get about an extra 5% on all your various combos after all the damage scaling is said and done. This move is also enhanceable, and the enhance also just lets it last longer than it is. It's almost about 50% longer duration, which is handy because, unlike how most fighting game buffs work, if you get hit, the buff will remain. So if you burn that bar, you will not have that bar wasted, as you will keep that buff going for quite some time. Depending on your Kameo choice, you can also combo into the buff, and we'll cover that later in the video. But still, buff move, handy for what it is. Now, next move here is the Devastator. This is down back 3, and this is basically his best move. So this is the Shao Kahn knee, and on its face by itself, it knocks you to the ground, right? And it has a decent knockdown. Now, things to note here. 1, it's actually ridiculously fast for what it is, 10 frames, because it's also your reversal, armored, if you burn meter. And we're going to talk about later in the video as well, but defensively it's actually insane. At least in an active way, in a way where you're getting off the ground, not so much, because as a defensive move, if you're getting up, it can't hit people who are crouching to save your life. And I mean that very literally. You will die, because you will whiff the move, they will punish you. So that is very bad. His defense is very weak in that way. People are pressuring you with low profile offense. You cannot hit them. You're just going to have to block and like it for the most part. Still, that said, we all got to have our weaknesses. The thing here is it's armored, yes, but say if it doesn't armor, then it's a combo starter. So it's combination reversal and combo starter. So if you hit with this, you can go into your power dunk, and we'll talk about that later. But if you hit the power dunk, well, and you can go into combos and just combo out, right? So you will be using this a lot in your combo structure. So it's reversal and combo starter. If the armor triggers defensively, then you can't go for the power dunk, FYI. So you only get it as the base move, but then you armored through a move and it saved your life, right? So that's the penalty you got to pay. You'll be using this move a lot, and we'll talk about it more later in the video. Next, we have the Deathquake. Down back 4, this is effectively his projectile. It's not a fireball in the more traditional sense, but it's basically a ground pound. So you'll hit the ground, and very small travel time, a low will go across the ground and hit the enemy. And this is a true low, that means you can't neutral duck it, so that's the one value of the move, because this move startup is glacial. But at least, since it's a low, you have to block it, you can't just go under it and all that kind of stuff like so many other fireballs. The one weakness is, since the startup is so long, that means you can see it happening and just jump, which admittedly is a weakness, but he has really good anti-air, as we'll talk about later. So that is one thing. Now, to note, the enhanced version launches the opponent towards you. You will almost never use this. This is one of the worst uses of bars that you have. The juggle is a little inconsistent. You can get it with practice, but if you're burning bar, you have so many better places to do it. Let's just put it that way. So don't worry about that too much. With the right Kameo, your zoning game can be a little proficient. Don't use this as a zoning thing in and of itself, but as a supplement to whatever your Kameo can offer you. And the damage is respectable. 8% is not bad. A lot of projectiles in this game usually run 6-7%, so a full 8% damage isn't the worst, despite all the other downsides of the move. It's not something you're going to base your game plan around, but don't forget you have it. It's usable every now and then. And our final special move in Axe Stance is the Power Strike. This is the dunk. So this is where you very literally dunk out your axe and you go into no axe stance. Now the move by itself is an overhead, so you must block this standing. It is also for the most part safe on block, -10 with pushback, so even if you do it very close, you're just really, with very rare exception, moves that can touch you at all. So don't feel threatened if it's blocked. And if you want to enhance it, the enhanced version is actually just neutral on block. So given that and the range, and you know what range you're going to be dumped out at, you can start pressuring the opponent and, you know, they can counterplay you. But the fact that you're not negative at all means you do have the edge in a way. And naturally enough, the enhanced version also just does straight up more damage, right? As you would expect. But the main use is you're dumping out the axe, and now you're in no axe stance. This is critical for combo routes. Obviously critical in the no axe stance, as this is how you leave axe stance. So if you want that whole move set, you got to do it anyways. But you'll be doing this move a lot regardless. It's a main combo move, either through burning meter, even meterless combos as well. No matter what, you're going to be using this a lot, so learn it and love it. Now let's talk the specials for no axe stance. As once again, he's a stance character, and he has completely different moves with the axe out of his hands versus in his hands. So one of the things here, classic con. So this is like the knee from before, except it's a launcher in and of itself. You don't need to spend meter. You can just meterlessly combo from it. So if I go something like this, as you can see, I get a full combo, right? Easy 300 some damage. So it launches by itself. You do not need to spend bar. Now, naturally, you can spend bar. So if you spend bar for one, you'll do a little bit more damage. And also, it is armored. So if you happen to know an attack is coming, you can armor through it. Now, to note, it does not launch on armor. That would be just like the other move when you're in axe stance. If you actually armor through it, you're not going to get the full combo too. Like, that's for balance reasons, right? You can't go too crazy. But in no axe stance, it's something you're going to be using a lot, if only for just basic combo fodder. So now you know. Now, also in no axe stance is the reverse tree chopper. And this is a true command grab. And he throws you on top of the axe and then dunks you out. And it's really good for a lot of reasons. One, it is a command grab. So if I set the enemy to block everything here, right? So they're obviously blocking, no dice. You still get grabbed. Can't block a grab. And as a command grab, you also can't tech this grab either. So you can neutral duck it because it is a high. As it stands, there's only one mid command grab in the whole game. That's for Reiko. But still, other than that, it keeps, you know, a lot of strengths. Also, naturally, the enhanced version does more damage, as you do. And also in unarmed stance, it is armored as well. Like, let's say Melina does something Melinas would never do in a million years. Wake up ball. No Melina would ever be crazy enough to do that, right? So say we know it's coming, right? And I want to grab them, but I don't know if they're going to roll or not, or if they're going to stay still. I just can't tell because they're such a crazy Melina player. And the one thing is, if I go for it, I'm safe either way. Because I'll armor through it. I won't get the grab, sure, but I will get a guaranteed punish. So if they're defensive, you get them. And if they go for the wake-ups, you get a guaranteed punish. Because you'll armor through whatever the wake-up is, and then you can punish them on the other end of it, right? And naturally, too, if they just do basic strikes, you'll armor through it, you'll grab them, you'll do more damage. What's not to love? Also, what's not to love? The base move itself, you get to choose which way they land out. So normally, it'll just dunk them out the side you're facing, right? But say you hold back, then you will put them out on the other side of things. So you get to choose the positioning, and that's always great. Being able to choose your positioning, and there's a lot of setups where maybe you wind up in the corner and you just want to put them back in the corner, sacrifice 1, 2, 3, 4% damage in a combo, sure. If they're cornered, great. So utility-wise, through the roof, it's one of your best moves, and it's going to be one of your main combo enders as well. You're going to be using it a lot anyways. And by itself, if you are pressuring an unarmed stance, it's a command grab. So you get them, you dunk them, and it does more damage than most command grabs too as well, by the way. Reiko's does 11. Garrus's does 12, Shao does 14. So you do the math. It's a lot more damage. So now keeping on with the unarmed moves, we have the tree chopper, which is different than the reverse tree chopper. Reverse tree chopper is a grab. Regular tree chopper is a big old swing. So a couple things to note. It is a mid. So no neutral ducking this bad boy. Also, which is extra handy, it is advantage on block. It's not much, but advantage frames are pretty rare in this game, honestly. So having anything that's advantage is very nice. Also, like so many other moves, it is armored if you enhance it. So basically, unarmed Shao is where all the armor is, right? And naturally, the enhanced version also does more damage, because of course it does, right? So it's mid, advantage on block, good knockdown on a hit, gives you your axe back naturally enough, right? Pick up the axe and swing at the enemy, and then you're back in your axe stance. So it's a very decent move all around, right? Now, going back here, the Deathquake. So Deathquake is like our ground pound from earlier with the axe, except you're levitating the axe, slamming it to the ground. Now, to note, compared to, say, this move, on its face, this is a low as well, but it does not do as much damage. Now, the startup is actually exactly the same. So 40 frames normally, 40 frames normally. So for the lot of the comparisons of the move, it's actually kind of mostly the same. The big difference is if you do it near the enemy. So if you do it near the enemy, it becomes an overhead instead, not a low. So it'll hit overhead then low. And consequently, it's a 2-hit combo and does a lot more damage. It does about 12% almost. So if you can aim it near the enemy, it becomes a different move as an overhead compared to a low. As you see here, low here, and overhead when it's on top of the enemy, and do a lot more damage. Now, to note, it is overhead low, but since it goes overhead low so fast, it does trigger unblockable protection. So if they block the overhead, they'll automatically block the low. So they don't have to like one frame block the other. It does trigger the unblockable protection. They thought of that, don't worry. But still, you can have, you know, sometimes a little bit of a sweet spot where it can be a little difficult to tell sometimes if it's going to be overhead or low. And naturally as well, you can enhance it. If you enhance it, you will launch the enemy like before. And just like before, it's not necessarily the best use of your meter. That's just how that is, I guess. But it is there if you want to use it. And our final move is quarter circle forward and 4. You just pick up the axe again. Like, no fuss, no muss. There's nothing special about it. Just, if you want your axe back wherever you are on the screen, here it is, right? You're back in your axe stance. Sometimes, if you're far away, you know, you can't be near the enemy, like, you know, get all your cool unarmed stuff off. It just behooves you to get your axe back, because you might as well, because you're just not in the good position for it. And that's the no axe stance. Now, a couple things to note. The moves where you use the axe, say like tree chopper, reverse tree chopper, you do have to be somewhat near the axe. Axe quake, you can be pretty far away. As long as it's like anywhere on screen, it'll work. But say if we go for that command grab over here, it's not going to come out because we're just too far away. You do need to be near the axe, either for the command grab or the base axe chop move. That's about as far as away you can get for that. But if you're further out, like it's not going to happen, right? Like you're not going to teleport to the axe. So keeping that in mind, some of the axe moves, you got to be somewhat near the vicinity of the axe to use them. But otherwise, that is a special moves in no axe stance. Now to note about his fatal blow. It is legitimately not one of the better fatal blows in the game. Like, the range is alright-ish, but not great. So it is a mid, normally, by the way, if you hit anywhere where the axe doesn't connect. But if the axe hits over their head, then it is actually an overhead, just FYI. So the startup is glacial as far as fatal blows go. It's like almost 2 full seconds. If you want to combo into it, like back 3 is one way to do it. And you're going to be using back 3 anyways, so that's something. Or if you're starting a combo without much juggle potential, as in you haven't already did a big combo, you can go into your EX launcher, power dunk, hit him with a quick jab to keep him airborne, and then you can go into it. But opportunities are very limited, FYI, so just to keep that in mind. Everyone needs their fatal blow. It's a good tool to have, sure, but Shao's is not one of the barn burner fatal blows of the game. Let's put it that way. Now, let's talk notable normals, because Shao's got a lot of them. And we're going to break this into 2 sections, because once again, as a stance character, he has 2 sets of normals. So first off, stand 2. Oh my god. So stand 2, in my opinion, this is the second best stand 2 in the game, only overmatched by Scorpion, because Scorpion gets full meterless combos, and Shao doesn't. But still, 8 frames. So it's fast. And it's got the range. Other characters, for the most part, other than Scorpion, cannot hit you with a stand 2 from this far away. Shao can. So that means when it comes to like shimmying, whiff punishing, just walking people down, any kind of miss on their behalf, and you just go brap, and you got them, right? So it is a whole string, so 2-2-2. Generally speaking, if you're going for like hit confirms, you're going to go 2-2 and like whatever special, just to note. But if you want to go for the 3rd hit or just stagger with it, like, am I going 2-2 on block or am I going 2-2-2? That as well. But combination of speed and range for a high, like, it is exceptional. You aren't going to accuse him of being the best character in the game, but you better believe this is one of the best normals in the game. For what it is absolutely amazing. And hey, speaking of amazing, let's talk back 2. So back 2 is swinging for the fences. And so it's a meterless launcher, mid, there's no neutral ducking, right? Slower, sure, 26 frames, but you can also do it from very far away, right? You're not doing this necessarily in their face, point blank all the time. So if you do, you get a hit, great. Get a hit, go into combo, world's your oyster, like all that fun stuff, get some good damage in, awesome. But, you know, usually there's drawbacks, right? Like, okay, like if it gets blocked or something, you know, it's my time to punish you, or at the very least it's my turn. And no, this move's plus on block. So it launches, you get full combo, and if it's blocked, you're +3. So that's not a lot to be plus, but it certainly is not nothing to be plus, you know? And that means it's your turn. If you want to do the old jab check wars, you're always going to win every time because you just have more frame advantage. And also, besides that, he has a really good follow-up move in back 4, which we'll talk about in 1 second. But back 2 is just a good bully move. Once again, the range. Like, if people were walking, they had to be already well on their way to avoid this move. If you whiff this move, for the most part, it's completely your fault, given the absolute range of it, right? It's good to do on wake-ups. It's good to do whenever you have frame advantage. And you basically steal turn after turn after turn and just go wild. And once again, if you get a hit, world's your oyster. And don't worry, you can get respectable meterless damage as well. This doesn't always have to be, like, you know, off the enhanced bar or anything, right? You can get good stuff no matter what you're doing. Now, let's talk back 4. So back 4 is a sweep. Everyone has a sweep. And Shao, well, it's not necessarily best in class by any means. It's really good for him. So the range is all right. Like, it's not great. He doesn't low profile like so many other characters do. He is standing. So if there's something coming your way, you will get blasted, FYI. But what makes it good is the relative speed. He obviously has mids, as we went over, and we'll talk about more later too, but he doesn't have any fast mids. So this is kind of his go-to fast button. Like if you don't want to rely on a high because you think they're going to hit a button or whatever. And say you're in that scenario where you're plus on block and you're worried they're going to spam something, right? This is kind of that go-to button. Because it's 11 frames, it'll catch a lot of things. If it connects, you get a knockdown, you get 11 frames of advantage. So you can go into a lot of things, not the least of which is just going for another sweep. On block, it's barely negative with a good amount of pushback. So it's -3, and once again, -3 at this far away, who cares? Literally, who cares? So at that point, we can go into back 1, which we'll talk about in a second, or more back 2s, or forward 4s, or you got a lot of good, like mid-range buttons is what this character has, right? So if you're pushed back at -3 at mid-range, that might as well be +3, man, because most characters are not going to have a button that's going to be better what you can do at this range and thread. So if you get blocked, don't worry, you're still in the driver's seat. So his sweep, for him, maybe not the best in the game, but for him, it definitely works. Now, we mentioned back 1, let's go into back 1. So back 1 is a 14 frame mid. Now, given the range, which is this, by the way, like, look at that. Look at that. For 14 frames, that range is titanic. So that's really, really good. So controlling the mid screen, once again, we got back 2, all that kind of stuff, 4 as well, 20 frame mid. He's really good in this space where a lot of characters have moves that'll whiff, and if they have moves that'll connect, they're usually going to be pretty slow. 14 frames for this space is fantastic. It is almost best in class. The weakness is it does have a string, back 1-2, and the back 1-2, that second hit's an overhead, so that's not bad. But you don't get combos off this. This is not a hit confirm or anything. You don't get the thing into the big launch and all that. You just get the string and you don't get much else. So if you get the string, you get a good knockdown. 17 frames of advantage on hit, it's not bad. That's actually very important for his game plan, as we'll talk about later in the video. But that's all you get. But still, as like a whiff punish, as a shimmy, as just a button in and of itself, as far as mid-range goes, excellent, excellent, excellent. Now to note, stand 1-2, everyone needs a quick jab. Everyone needs a quick jab for the quick jab combo, and his is this. So it does knock down, it bounces, as you can see. Now by yourself, you could get a little bit, like you can go jab in the knee and all that. The main use though, it does go into dunk in and of itself. So since it goes into dunk in and of itself, it's a really good source of meterless damage. So if you're using this, I wouldn't suggest burning the bar, FYI. You'll get about 30% almost meterless. So it is handy in that way. Or you can just not go back to stance and just start pressuring an unarmed. To note, certain assists, it will play well with. So just keep that in mind, I guess, that it's an option available to you. But overall, everyone needs the quick jab button for combo punishes. This is the quick jab combo for punishes, basically. Now, I'm going to talk about it more later in the video, but forward 1-2. So forward 1-2 is suspect on its own raw, because it just isn't 2-2. It doesn't have the range. 2-2 has like double the range, and it's also literally faster than forward 1. Forward 1 is 10 frames, stand 2 is 8 frames and more range, right? So the thing about this is when it comes to blocking, and just keep this in mind for your Kameo choices, forward 1-2, the block stun advantage is much more than your other strings. So by itself, it's only -2 on hit. And also, when it comes to, like, say, reversals and stuff, it's a true jail into various Kameos, meaning they can't armor through it, they can't reverse through it, they can't do anything. If they try to let go of block, they'll get hit. There's literally, it's an airtight string. So if you're playing around with various Kameos, just keep that in mind in their various attacks. This string, for the most part, is airtight if you call any Kameo, unless that Kameo is glacially slow. So in a lot of ways, it's just not as good as 2-2, but it does have that. In that its block advantage is so much better. And of course, you know, it's just -2 on block with a little bit of pushback, so that's fine. And it does have a follow-up in forward 1-2-2, which is death on block, FYI, but it does launch naturally. So if you want to do that and go into a combo, that's available to you. Now, jump 2. So jump 2 is the overall most ranged jumping 2 attack in the game, to the point where it has its own unique rule set, where most of the time it's going to be a mid. Normally, jump attacks, overhead, overhead, right? This is going to be a mid at all points other than, like, if you wait for, like, the last second. And the reason is because you can do stuff like that. No other character in the game can hit you with a jump 2 like that, where you can be basically at the peak of your jump, and, like, you can get a full combo from the peak of your jump, right? Other characters can't do that. As far as, like, a jump in, it's one of the most belligerent jump ins in the game. The one weakness I guess you could associate it with it, besides, you know, being a mid, which is fine, it's whatever. When you're in jump in, like, who cares? It's actually not even that big of a deal, honestly. His toes are very out there, so some people can tap your toes, so don't try to be too close to the enemy. Like, if you want to do it as, like, a cross-up, anyone that's, like, stand 1 will usually beat you as a cross-up. You want to challenge him with, like, the full range of the move, so it's less likely to get jabbed out as an anti-air, just as an FYI. But it is legitimately one of the best jump-in attacks in the game, and will beat a lot of traditional anti-airs with traditional timing. Like, people will sort of have to play around it. Now, that said, we'll talk about more later, but, like, back 3 is the low, 4-2 is the overhead. That's the core of the mix. Now, that said, let's talk about the notable normals for unarmed stance. Now, no axe stance has a completely different set of normals than the regular axe stance, and obviously, certain moves are better than others. So, like mentioned before, back 3 is the low, 4-2 is the overhead, but it's a little different this time around. So back 3 is still kind of back 3, but forward 2 is wildly different. So forward 2 is a 16 frame overhead that launches, and by the way, it is completely safe on block. It's safe on block. -6. This is the best overhead in the game. Let's just call it for what it is. This is the best overhead in the game. It's unreactable at 16 frames. Nobody on Earth is going to see it, assess it, react. And like, maybe they knew it was coming. They can block, right? They can predict it, but they can't react to it. Not happening. And if you get it, it's a basic combo just as a starter, right? But you will get a combo. You're going to get minimum 20% or more depending on your situation. Like, just for an example, here's a slightly better combo. And you can just kind of, you know, do some routes yourself. That's like over 25%, right? So the meterless damage is there. Obviously, it's not as big as some of the bigger damage combos and axe stance, burning bar, all that kind of stuff. Nor is it meant to be. Your damage potential on unarmed is not necessarily going to be as high, but you get things like, instead of a 20 frame death on block overhead, you get a 16 frame safe on block overhead, right? So that's some of the advantage of having the unarmed stance. And there's obviously more than just that. So we have that. We have back 2. So back 2, close range. All the moves are going to be close range for the most part. And you can see here, it does indeed launch. So, you know, you hit, cool, launch. It launches so high, like, even if you don't time it, certain moves will whiff. It's very high launch. The thing about it is this bad boy is plus on block. So this bad boy is +3 on block. So we have the safe overhead that launches, and now we have a mid launcher that's plus on block. And yes, we have a mid launcher that's plus on block here too as well, but this one's 26 frames. This one is 15 frames. Obviously not quite the same range, but you can get pretty belligerent with it. And the frames is basically the name of the game in unarmed stance, right? You don't have much range, but here, back 1. So back 1 is a launcher And it's a 12 frame launcher. So I can get this combo for a 12 frame launcher. Most people, like a lot of characters in this game, don't even have a 12 frame mid, period, right? Like into a basic hit confirm, like this is a 12 frame launcher. Of course, shouldn't go without saying, but the stance being the stance, it's safe on block. And like your main combo hit confirm string, 224, also plus on block. So I hope I'm impressing upon you. The numbers in unarmed stance are phenomenal. They're very fast, and they're either barely negative or plus on block. The only downside is, once again, the range. You go from a lot of range with the axe to basically no range in unarmed stance. So when you're in unarmed stance, you got to call your shots. Generally, not always, but generally, the best place to go in unarmed stance is in the corner, where you can just go berserk on the enemy. And we'll talk about unarmed stance theory and all that later in the video. But that's kind of the name of the game. Even the sweep. So the sweep is +3 on block. Legitimately, it's not as good as axe stance, because it keeps that really big pushback, and you do not want to push them back. Like, you want to stay directly on top of them and no axe stance, so that pushback is not to your advantage. But even the sweep's plus on block, right? So these are some ideas of what you should be looking for in unarmed stance. Obviously not every single move, but these are some of the notable normals of unarmed stance. Now, this next section is a little simple, but it's important. So you can't jump on Shao if you're on the ball, like straight up. So Shao has an uppercut. Everyone's got an uppercut. Shao's uppercut is substandard, in my opinion. High vertical, but very poor, exceptionally poor horizontal range. So if we can't rely on that for, you know, a lot of jumps, what can we rely on? Well, we got the knee. So the knee is only 1 frame slower startup, has a bunch of active frames, travels a ridiculous amount of the screen, and if they jump at all, you got them dead to rights. To the point where, like, they shouldn't be able to jump. If you're on the ball at all, this is, in my opinion, the single best anti-air move in the game. It is that good. And not only is it that good, you know, get your damage, sure, whatever. Remember, this is your combo starter. So if you want to burn that bar, like, we can turn any random anti-air into, like, at least, you know, close to 30%, if not more, depending on your positioning and all that kind of stuff and what you're willing to do. And say if you're glacially slow and the armor triggers anyway, if you want to burn that bar, well, then you still beat them with the anti-air. Like, you still win regardless, right? But it is 10 frame startup. It's so good, has so many active frames. You should never allow someone to jump on you, ever, ever, ever. It's a basic concept. This is a simple section, but the con knee, man, and this applies too for the unarmed version as well. Although realistically, they're very rarely going to jump at you because you're probably pressuring them. But still, just to keep that in mind, you have kind of dominant buttons. You know, people are going to be more inclined to jump if they can't beat you from a range. And you have maybe the single best anti-air in the game. And if you want to burn that bar, you can get about 30-ish% and make them really regret jumping. It is very difficult for this move, even without burning the bar and getting the armor, it's difficult for this move to lose to jumps. Even moves that are like jump kicking you on your wake up, you can crush a lot of those because the startup is so fast. You can beat a lot of those clean, and you'll always beat them if you burn the bar. So just keep that in mind. The reward is huge. The safety net is huge if you burn the bar, because you'll armor through it at minimum, get a full combo if they didn't burn the armor, right? It's just insanely good as an anti-air. Now, to quickly talk about neutral, now that we talked about specials and a lot of the important buttons, Shao wins in neutral. He is a neutral-based character. Obviously, we have no axe stance, and it's all about the pressure and all that, but you get that once you win neutral. You don't just go in the no axe stance and then just, you know, kind of rush in like a madman, right? So the things about neutral is right around here, he can contest the screen in the way a lot of characters just cannot. So what do we have? We have back 1, 14 frame mid for the distance it gets, best in class. We have back 2, great range, 4 to 20 frames, hits from the round start position, really strong. Stand 2 is amazing for its range and its general speed. Down 3, also quite a bit of range for a down 3. Maybe not the most in the game, but it's good in its own ways, as we'll talk about later. If people are not willing to commit to you and your buttons, and they just want to flit around, you can sneak in a quick weapon buff, because once again, the weapon buff is so much faster and better than it is in MK11. Or you can go for your projectile, which try not to get into a zoning war because you'll probably lose, just FYI. But yeah, the ability to just kind of go in, walk people down, stand 2, back 1, back 2, forward 4. Range is what he's got. And obviously, once you win neutral, you get a combo, then you can dump your axe, go in unarmed stance, go crazy with all your plus frames, all that kind of stuff, and your quick high-low mix, all that kind of stuff. But that is where he wins the game. He is a neutral-based character first and foremost. And once you win neutral, then you can start doing other things. But keep that in mind. You win not by being directly in front of the enemy. Because, like, you got a few things, sure. Like, you know, once again, we talked back 4 is not bad. But right here, his general range and speed of his various buttons, most, not all, but most of the casts will struggle against that. Once again, he's not a top tier character, so you got to pick and choose your battles, and this is the range he is most effective at that characters would struggle against him. Do not consider it a bad thing just to sometimes just walk out. Why? Because when you walk out, they can whiff a button, and you can catch it with a back 1, or you can walk out further, go for a back 2. If they do anything other than just kind of sit and wait to see what's happening, you go for that home run swing, catch a button. That's an easy 30 to almost 40% depending on what you want to burn on the meter, right? So, yeah, once again, just play with the range. Shao is a ranged character. He is a buttons character. That is where he succeeds. Sure, we got the cool mix, but the cool mix is once you've scored a clean hit in neutral. And how do you score that clean hit in neutral? By playing neutral. Use your buttons. That is absolutely where Shao's bread is buttered. Now, some notes on combo theory. So, a lot of combos obviously use a lot of juggles. And the more you juggle an opponent in a combo, the more and more it's harder to juggle opponent in a combo. So to give you an example here, say we do stand 2-2, right? We hit confirm that in the launcher. So since the gravity scaling is very low, we can go right into the unarmed rising knee and then combo into it. However, if the opponent's like already been juggled quite a few times, that same combo ain't ever gonna work. As you can see, it just almost forces them on the ground immediately after the knee. So just keep things like that in mind. If your juggle potential is relatively low before you go for the dunk and go for whatever follow-up you're gonna go, if you wanna go back into axe stance, into the grab, generally speaking, you can go for your knee, jab, go for the grab, reset out. However, if the juggle potential is a bit higher, then this is not going to be as applicable. As you can see here, it's just not going to work out. Like say back 2, go jump 1-2, 2-2, combo follow-up, right? And with gravity scaling, you can actually get about 2 of these bad boys in before you can go into it. However, 3, like say we're in the corner where it's actually kind of easy to get 3. And you can see here, we can do it, but we're just not going to land it. So if you're going for the big home run in the corner, either just do 2 and go for the regular B&B you're going to go for, which, you know, is fine. Also, in the corner, even with high gravity scaling, you can go for stand 4 in the grab and then get your additional damage. It has the range and the speed. It's just one big hit, 7%. A lot more than the other unarmed moves you're going to get. They're all going to fall to the ground very fast, so just cash out on the damage. You'll get it. It'll work. Or if you're looking to press your luck just in a really major way, in a way I don't necessarily recommend, you actually can go for up to 5 back 2s. 4 is manageable. 5 is legitimately almost impossible. It is doable. And I'm not going to record this over and over and over till I get it, just FYI, because it's 4 a.m. But just keep that in mind. If you want more optimal damage, you can get the 5 back 2s in the corner as well. For unarmed combo structure, generally speaking, mid-screen, you're not going to get too much. Like, you'll get workable meterless damage, push them to the corner. But the damage potential in the corner is where everything really comes online. In the corner, we can start sneaking in some extra hits because the enemy can't get pushed out, right? And since we're sneaking in extra hits, and we can also combo into the axe, because the axe is probably going to be right there, we just get more damage. So just keep that kind of stuff in mind, that your routes are very malleable depending on the screen as well. And we'll talk more about like the mix-up combos and all that kind of stuff later in the video. Now, let's talk Shao and jailing. And if you don't know the concept of the jailing, please check the jailing video on the channel, because we'll go over it there. But now that said, everyone needs a jail. It's a basic concept, and Shao obviously can do it just like everyone else, but certain moves are more applicable than others. So let's use the standard down 1. So standard down 1 gives us 12 frames. So you think, okay, well, 2-2 is really good, and it is, but we can do better. And we also have 1-2, which is good, but we can do better. This is actually where forward 1-2 really shines. So forward 1-2, if it connects, higher damage, right? 77 damage. Does have the string ender where it launches, and either way, we get full combo potential off of it. So like no matter what, we're getting our damage in. So that's really, really handy, right? And the big thing about it is obviously in a lot of jail situations, we get the jail, but they're a smart cookie and they're going to block. So hit jail, block, right? Okay, so this string, which is slower than 2-2 and all that, right? But since it's guaranteed and it's a jail, there's like no downside that way. It's only -2 on block with a little bit of pushback compared to, say, if we went for 2-2, it's -7 on block. And obviously 2-2 does have an ender, which is -6. So just keep that in mind. Or if we want to go for 1-3, or sorry, 1-2, -3 with pushback as well, right? And a lot of times people just automatically go for the dunk after the fact. But forward 1-2, since it's barely negative with the pushback, and just even if it's 1 frame less, it's still 1 frame less than 1-2. If you just want to walk out and try to shimmy a button, the option is there because it's only -2. So if they poke back, you can walk out of the poke, blast them with back 1. And also the follow-up. So right here, the follow-up slow enough that it has a little bit of gap in that. If they think it's safe enough to take their turn, they'll get blasted by the follow-up, get launched. And once again, as I briefly mentioned earlier in the video, has just more block stun than other strings. So if you're looking to go into, say, a cameo call after the fact, it is completely airtight. So let's just turn on reversal for a second. So if there's any gap, Melina will go for her reversal right away, right? So 2-2, cameo call, reversal. 1-2, cameo call, reversal. Forward 1-2 cameo call, nothing. Because it's airtight. And that means you can guarantee a lot of things that you can't guarantee off other strings. Not necessarily everyone would react to a cameo call off that, right? It can be difficult, but why give them the option? And that's exactly what forward 1-2 does. It removes options from the enemy. It's a good hit confirm. In neutral, it's just not worth doing over 2-2. It's slower, doesn't have the same amount of range. It's both high starter, right? But as a jail, it's almost the ideal jail because it's guaranteed no matter what, because plus 12 frames, 10 frame startup, therefore guaranteed jail, right? And just less negative on block, more advantage on block if you want to call cameos after the fact. If you get the hit, big blast in the hit, get damage, all that kind of stuff. It's all upside, and it's basically the ideal button to go for jailing off a down 1. Now, naturally, we got more buttons to work with because it's not just always going to be down 1. It's going to be down 1 a lot, yes, but not always going to be down 1. This is where down 3 comes into play. So down 3, like, you got to use the tools you have, right? I'm not going to call it the best down 3 in the game, far from it, but it's there. And it gives us 10 frames of hit advantage. And when you know it, stand 2, 8 frames, right? And if you manage to hit down 3, you're always going to be in stand 2 range, no matter what. Like, it's just, that's how it's going to be. So always jails into stand 2. So if you're a little further out, obviously like outside of down 1 range, this is the go-to jail. So stand 2-2 off down 3, always a go-to. Now down 4 is a weird beast because it actually has, it's slower than other down 4s and has less advantage on hit than other down 4s. So the one thing it has a smidge more range than other down 4s. I mean just a smidge, not a lot. But it loses out because of that extra range. So a lot of other characters have decent jail options off a down 4, like either go for a projectile or whatever. Shao, unfortunately, not so much. Like, if you know what's going to hit, then it's mostly safe to go for the buff. Like, you're going to be a little negative, but you can go for it. If it's blocked, it's not going to be safe to go for the buff, FYI. But it is not just as applicable, unfortunately. Like, if you want to hit buttons after the fact and go in axe swing, you're going to be safe. Because -10 this far away, who cares, right? Obviously not a guaranteed combo, but just a way to keep the opponent honest. But yeah, as far as jailing goes, off down 1, forward 1-2 is generally your superstar. Off down 3, stand 2-2 is your go-to. And naturally enough, if you know they're going to block, you can throw Even if it's a little further away, you can dash throw, whatever. Like, once you know they're going to block, then you get a whole bunch of other options, not the least of which, because you're General Shao, you can go low, or you can go overhead. We'll cover that in that section, right? So mix monster throw stuff, or just keep him honest, force him to block, go for the basics. His jailing is nothing to write home about, but it's a core concept every character needs, and this is what works. So now let's talk all about the high-low mix-up here. Shao is very proficient at the Mortal Kombat low overhead game. In fact, much more than most of the cast. So why is that? Because Shao does a lot more damage than most of the rest of the cast. Most of the cast, for their overheads, they'll do something like anywhere from like 5, 6, 7%. Melina's an outlier, will do 11%. Shao will do 15% with room to grow, especially say in unarmed stance where the damage can get a fair bit higher as well. And with cameos, the world's potentially your oyster as well, because the damage gets higher and higher and higher the more you want to mess around with the various cameos of the game. So his overhead is very deadly, and actually enough, he has a low starter as well, natural string as well, and the funny and beautiful part of it is back 3 is always the low regardless of the stance, forward 2 is always the overhead regardless of the stance. So you don't have to relearn any buttons or anything like that. Outside of certain cameos, generally the mix-up game is better in unarmed stance. That's just how it is. Why? Because the overhead is faster and safe on block and full combo on hit, right? Versus without it, regular axe stance, the overhead is slower, and keep in mind, the low, the overhead hit on the exact same frame. So no fuzzy blocking or any of that nonsense. It's on the edge of reactability, but I would not worry about that personally myself. Don't. Like, if they're worried about high-low and the timing is that tight, it's just not going to be a thing, right? But generally speaking, overall, without the exceptions, no axe stance has the better mix. If only because 4-2 is just better in no axe stance. So how do we set it up? Well, in a lot of situations, it's right off the back of just dunking your axe. What you'll do is ideally sacrifice a few % damage of your combo, do your dunk, so you won't get his maximum damage, but we're plus 40. And if we're plus 40, we can literally just dash in and just go low, go overhead, whatever works for you. World's your oyster. You have so much frame advantage, it doesn't matter. And then go for whatever combo. Generally speaking, this is also cameo dependent, it's better to go for the unarmed mix in the corner. And don't worry, Shao's general combo structure leads you to the corner quite easily, so that works out great. Now, certain cameos, your mid-screen mix gets a lot more deadly. We'll cover that later. But here's also the thing. Axe stance is no slouch. In fact, you have a million opportunities. So we mentioned sacrifice a few points of damage for, dunking the axe, being unarmed stance, go for the mix. What if we don't want to? So screw it. We'll just take our full combo damage and in the command grab, right? Now look at the frame advantage on this bad boy. It's plus 15. Once again here, that low, that overhead to 20 frames in axe stance. If it's 15, well, I'm not going to spoil it for you, I guess, here. But that means you'll always win versus any button press. There ain't no 5-framers in this game. You'll always have the exact frame advantage to always win versus any press. Unless it's armored. That is an option. The opponent always has the ability to defend in that way. But that is one of the big deals here. So if I do my whatever combo, I end in the usual way with my command grab, dunk you out, I'm plus 15. That means, effectively, if I'm willing to force the issue, you immediately have to guess low or overhead. And that makes that incredibly deadly. Not the least of which, say we want to do something else. We talked earlier how that knee, such a great anti-air, right? I'll snipe you out of the air every time. And when you know that frame advantage is also plus 15. So every time you snipe someone out of the air with that knee, oh, guess overhead. Oh, it sniped you out of the air. Oh, guess low, right? You can do that every single time. The frames on so many of your moves that are very common lead you directly into these scenarios. Back 1-2, great poke, great shimmy, all that kind of stuff. Plus 17 on hit. Nice knockdown, you're directly on top of them. Okay, guess immediately, guess overhead. Okay, I got knocked down. Guess low, right? A lot of your core moveset all leads into this. All roads lead to the mix. Either you want to go unarmed, you dunk, you cash out, go unarmed, go night, just go nuts, right? But a lot of your base moveset, be it the knee, be it back 1-2, be it ending with the command grab and your combo structure, which is usual, you always will be having the requisite frame advantage to kind of enforce that guess low, guess high scenario. And of course, as we already went over, depending on cameos, you get stuff. Back 3, the low, can follow-ups. So it's always low overhead, and it's always low overhead regardless of which stance you're in. The unarmed stance is a little bit better on block, just FYI, but still regardless. And you can also go right into a launcher. So if you get that back 3, you don't just have to settle for the string damage. You can swing for the fences. Now, this is where it makes back 3 less safe. Normally, the strings are safe on block. That, if it gets blocked, is less safe. But, you know, when you roll the 50-50 dice, you're rolling against yourself as well, right? And naturally, this also applies to cameos. If you have a launcher, boop, I can go low in the launcher, full combo, get 30+% as well. So the core of your moveset, you need to win neutral. But once again, you've got the buttons, stand 2, back 2, forward 4, and other things as well. Like forward 4, how plus is that? Plus 36. So you don't even need to worry about that little bit of frame advantage in just a small gap, right? You can literally just like dash in and be so plus if you go for the overhead right away, you can whiff. That's how much advantage you have. So don't worry about that. Like, you have so much advantage, you can do whatever you want. And say that can string follow-up, right? Back 3-2, low overhead, 39 frames advantage, same deal. You can just dash in. All right, guess again. All right, guess again. All right, guess again, right? And you just go low overhead, low overhead, low overhead, low overhead, just like the cows come home. So if you're looking to enforce that 50-50 game plan, Shao is by design enforced to do it. And once again, how you want to do it, either unarmed or axe stance, whatever works for you. They're both completely valid. And obviously, depending on your cameo choice, it can be better yet and better yet and better yet. So however you want to go about it, it's very free form. It's a big part of the game. Basically, you play buttons, you play neutral till you get that knockdown. And if you're looking to enforce a 50-50, then now you have the ability to enforce a 50-50. And obviously, there's more layers. So let's talk about that in the next section. So now let's talk some more advanced concepts. Axe stance, it's pretty basic actually. Like just back 3 or 4-2, whatever. If you need to use cameos to get more damage, use cameos to get more damage. That part's easy. A lot of the more advanced layers are based on the back of no axe stance because you have a lot of options basically because 4-2 is safe. So once again, if you get the base mix, great. Like if you get the hit, awesome. Keep in mind 4-2 safe on block. If you want anything off back 3 besides just the stock string, that's where you'll take your risk in no axe stance. So you can go back 3 right into knee launcher. And, well, it's a launcher, so you can get combos from it. So say we're in that scenario, we just go low into launch. Okay, gotcha. And now it's juggle time. And then we can end the combo, and we can get some pretty alright damage meterlessly, as you can see, right? So that's where the risk is. So if they do guess low that time, well, then they're going to kill you when they block the knee. But still, you can get a lot of damage. And of course, overhead is no slouch. If I smoke you with the overhead, you know, we're still getting good meterless damage, right? Like, no matter what, we're cashing out pretty all right. And if we're near the axe, might as well use the axe. Get 30% meterless. Oh, we're plus 15, by the way. Gets overhead again. Like, you can just keep going over and over and over. But necessarily, you know, this all precludes the worst case scenario. What if they block your move? No one wants that. No one wants their move to get blocked. So what do we do then? So say after a block, Melina is just going to go for a down 1 poke, right? It's a good standard answer for a lot of things in the game. So after 4-2, poke, right? And that's worst case scenario. It's completely safe, right? But we're not doing this to not it be our turn forever, right? So what can we do? Well, once again, remember, you have a lot of armored options when you're in an unarmed stance. Okay, I got blocked. Oh, screw this. Eat crap. So we can go right for our tree chopper, right? And if it's armored, it'll blow through that down 1. And it'll also be plus on block. And keep in mind as well, that command grab of ours, also armored. So not only will it beat, say, that down 1 spam, do 17%. If they're passive after the fact as well. If they do anything other than kind of just raw neutral duck, right? We'll get them. So our options off a blocked safe 4-2 and unarmed stance are really good if we're willing to spend some meter. And of course, it's still safe. We can still block. We can do whatever. But we have the advantage because we have so many armored, and even, you know, knee. That's armored too, right? We have so many armored moves we can do. in their face, like if it gets blocked and we're negative, like whatever, because we can easily steal the turn back so many different ways. This is also a good place to mention where the command grab is a true tick throw off down 1. So there's very, very, very few tick throws in this game, and this is indeed one of them. So we got that. And of course, naturally, the threat of the tick throw as well. You know, okay, if I know the tick throw is coming after down 1, I'll just neutral duck and punish it, right? But then keep in mind, if we got that axe near you, down 1 in the tree chopper, and if you neutral duck that bad boy, it's a mid, and if you block it, it's plus on block. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is we got a lot of options with pressure in the corner, and obviously the best case scenario is screw it, we just hit lower overhead and we got the hit anyways, but we have a lot of scenarios to go through. So once that forward 2 gets blocked, you know, we can steal turns, we can poke out ourselves. Our down 1 has a lot of various advantages because either we blow you up trying to duck a command grab, or you get tick throwed into the command grab. So the layers are super in depth. And once again, I predicate so much of this 4-2 because 4-2 is kind of like the start of the threat matrix. Because if you go back 3, if you just do the string, it's low value basically, unless you cash out all the way and go for the knee, because the knee is the launcher while you're in no axe stance. Human brain being human brain, people would assume you go for the safer, easier option, right? So naturally, you just do forward 2 over and over and over till it's established as the threat. And then you can go for the crazy stuff when it's all said and done, right? So that's just some of the thought process you should be looking for when you're an unarmed stance in the corner. Once again, axe stance is a lot more basic. You either get the basic hit or you use a cameo to assist your hit. There's a lot less layers there. And if you're looking for unarmed in the full screen, once again, not necessarily as advantageous, but you can still follow through. You can still bounce people. Maybe your combos won't do as much damage, but you can still do a lot with it. Now, let's talk cameo choices, because that's half the battle, right? Like, your cameo informs how you're going to play. And there's 2 schools of thought. Do you want to play vanilla and do more damage? Or do you want to enhance what he already has? And potentially also up your overall neutral, right? So if you want to do more damage, someone like a Sub-Zero is great. Why is Sub-Zero great for more damage? Because, well, you can get any hit confirm, go into freeze, and if they're frozen, you better believe you just got enough time to go right into your buff, and then go into whatever combo. So hits pretty hard, right? That's kind of basic, but still it's 42% off, you know, just a stand 2. No fuss, no muss, nothing fancy, big hits. Naturally, also just makes general meterless damage better as well, so you don't have to burn bar on some of your bigger hits, because you'll still get, you know, almost 35%. Makes the low specifically better, because you can just go low freeze into whatever you want. Gives cold shoulder, which is utility, as also that's an invincible reversal. There's not many of those in the game. That's handy. Also lets you hit from a range that's a little further out that he's comfortable with. And Shao, for the most part, sucks against fireballs, so ice armor isn't the worst idea. You could do worse than Sub-Zero, because he will make you a little bit better kind of all around. And that's the case for a lot of the cameos. They'll make you better all around. That's the job of a cameo, right? Like Serena's really good. She'll make you do more damage. Sure. But I find the more valuable cameos for Shao are the ones that enhance what he already has and specifically help out his mix-up game. So specifically, that would be Motaro, that would be Striker, and that would be Kung Lao. So obviously, things could change in the future, patches, all that kind of stuff. I don't know where the game's going, but these are the ones that really help out. Someone like Striker on the barest level makes his mix-up more just difficult to deal with. Why? So we got, like, say, back 3 low, and can't follow up low overhead, right? Now it can be low overhead, or it can be low, low. Gotta start guessing, right? And the beauty, too, his low and his overhead are both advantage on block. So if you're looking for that kind of stuff, just to help the high-low mix game, that literally gives you more high-low mix to work with, and it's also advantage on block versus, say, death on block for some of it. And speaking of death on block, since his grenades are an ambush call, you can call it whenever you're not locked into an animation, If you see this guy get blocked, just call Striker. If they dare take their turn against you, Striker grenades will just blow them out of the water. So this move, which is nominally safe, or rather unsafe on block, now becomes safe-ish. There's still certain ways you can get punished depending on the character, depending on the scenario. But a lot of times this is just the brute force. Oh, I screwed up. You guessed right. Well, grenade covers me. I'm good to go anyways. Haha, screw you. Much the same in some of the deadlier scenarios where you get blocked, like say unarmed back 3 into launcher. See yourself get blocked? Whoops, let's call Striker. And Striker's nice and behind me too, so if they hit buttons, they're still going to hit me, not hit Striker. His grenades will go off. That means their punish is now our turn, right? And in best case scenarios, you might actually get an actual punish off it too. So it just makes your stupid decisions completely safe. And grenades are fantastic that way. Motaro, what does he give us? Well, bare minimum, projectile reflection. Once again, we're not great against fireballs. So anything that can help Shao in that regard is definitely worthwhile and definitely valuable. He has teleport, teleports will be its own section. He has low fireball. So once again here, our low overhead string, which is fixed, can now be more threatening because now it could be low. And the opponent just kind of has to guess, right? It's going to be a split second. So the ability to see Motaro, well, you know, the couple frames that's there, like I guess technically someone could do it, but like I'm not going to worry about that too much. And plus, even if they could, it's stupid plus on block, so whatever. As turret, so multiple attacks in a row. That definitely just says, you know, okay, we'll just go high, low, high, low, high, low. And if we get blocked, well, there's another turret laser coming our way, so that's great. We mentioned how earlier in the video, Shao's Fatal Blow is almost worst in class. And Motaro says, nah, man, because Motaro is Bro-Taro, and we can go from our worst in class Fatal Blow to best in class, because Motaro can cancel the startup and do his own attack, and you can get a Fatal Blow off him, not your own attack. So even though Shao is slow as a glacier, you can always get your Fatal Blow off any full combo no matter what and get really big damage. So it's not something that's going to happen all the time, because, you know, if you're on Fatal Blow state, you're almost going to lose, right? But that is another benefit of having Motaro, is you can go for a full combo and still get the Fatal Blow at the end. So he gives us a lot of the things that we're looking for. Just the little things, like, hey, back 1-2, right? Same with Striker. Like, okay, it's always going to be mid-overhead, but now what if it was mid-low? Now, what if I just had to make you think, and your blocking wasn't just automatic? And that helps his general pressure, gives you the knockdown. And once again, Motaro's knockdown, 30 frames, so gives you a good time to set up the old high-low, right? So, or just pressure or whatever. Like, these are the kind of things that really helps out Shao. And for Kung Lao, I do think overall pound for pound, Kung Lao is the best pick for Shao, just because it gives him everything he could hope for. One, low hat. Low hat's amazing. You can outzone characters with this move alone. So toss in your Quake every now and then, and you can find characters that are like actual zoners, and you can actually outzone them. It's amazing. And of course, low hat, you can hold it. And the beauty of that, obviously, is it's a low. So now you hold it. Okay, do I want to go overhead then low? Do I want to go low then low? You can make your mix even more multi-tiered than it already is. And once again, we talked about those long knockdowns, right? Forward 4, call hat. You just wake up into it. You got no choice. You have no agency other than hope you guess right. And that's great. And once again, he has a lot of long knockdowns. He can set it up. It also works great with his pokes. Once again, back 1 hat. This is a natural block string, by the way, if it gets blocked. Naturally as well, he gives you launcher, right? So back 3 gets a lot stronger off a launch. It's also invincible reversal, which is very handy, right? And teleport, which we'll cover teleport in its own section, just like Motaro. Incredibly useful for the character. Increases his mix damage. So someone like Kung Lao gives you better mix, gives you better pressure, gives you better full screen, because now you have an actual fireball to be feared from full screen. And depending on the character you're fighting, you could literally win from full screen without ever having to engage between just this and this, right? So offers everything you could ever hope for. Now, necessarily compared to, say, Sub-Zero, I can do more damage per combo? No. There's a lot of characters, like say if you pick Scorpion, you will do more damage per combo, but that's it. You get no other utility. I don't value that as highly, especially for a character with such a defined game plan as General Shao. So for characters like Striker, characters like Motaro, characters like Kung Lao that give you additional lows to work with and other fun gimmicks. These are the kind of partners I think work best for General Shao. Now let's talk teleports and its effect on Shao. Obviously, a lot of the character is the mix, and the teleport makes our overhead and axe stance so much more deadly than it normally is. So normally, unarmed overhead is the way to go. And in a lot of ways, it still is, right? But if we have our pal, the teleport gives us so much more to work with. Normally, no extenuating circumstances, 15% is all we get. Once again, that's best in class. That's more than anyone else gets off a single basic overhead hit, right? So it's already great. But teleports, how they work is whatever animation you're in, and this is the 4-2 animation, which is very slow. It's not special cancelable. It's not assist cancelable, but teleports are ambushes, so you can call them whatever, and they will rip you out of whatever animation you're in. So 4-2 has a very long hit stun animation for both you and them, but if you teleport, you get ripped out, only they have the long animation. And when you know it, say for Motaro, we're in stand 2 range after the fact. So I bop you with forward 2, and instead of 15%, I feel we can do a lot better than that 15%. So screw it, let's get better. And now instead of 15%, damage is racking up. And now we're at basically 30. So we've effectively doubled our damage thanks to the teleport. So already the threat of the high-low is strong as it stands. And now our overhead and axe stance is effectively twice as powerful as it was before off the back of the one Kameo teleport. And you can't take too many 30% damage combos before you lose the game. Naturally enough, right? So that's what makes the teleport and 4-2 overhead and axe stance so strong. Now, Kung Lao works, for the most part, mostly the same. The one thing is he'll dump you closer to the enemy. And could be my mind tricking me. I think you have a little bit less time to work with than you do Motaro, but you can still get, say, 1-2 and have it be a natural combo. So at bare minimum, I hit you with 4-2 called teleport. And then we still combo out, and we still get respectable damage. Certainly a damn sight better than the 15%, right? The thing that's different with Kung Lao specifically is if you hold the Kameo, he will dump you up higher and leave you in an airborne state. So now, instead of getting a grounded move, I can actually go, hold it, and get jump 2. And jump 2 naturally combos into back 2. So now we can get a pretty decent combo. You get juggles, all that kind of stuff. Do all the huge, as it were. And now we're cashing out. Now we're getting more than double damage. So that's really, really, really good. Now there is a user beware note, I guess you can add to this one here, specifically for Kung Lao. In the corner, while you can get the jump 2, it gets difficult. Because if it hits at all, it's either going to hit weird and you'll be same side, or it can hit kind of other way over and you'll cross over the enemy like that. And it's almost impossible. It's like within a frame or 2 difference which side you're going to land on. So if you're going for the back 2, sometimes you'll literally just be on the wrong side, hit back 2 wrong, get no combo, drop your combo. That's no good. So for the interest of safety, instead of risking it all, just take the guaranteed damage. You can still do axe, and once again, you choose which side they dump out on, so they're still going to be in the corner no matter what. So just keep that in mind. If you want to risk it, or if you time it perfectly, you're a better person than me. I just find that unreliable. Mid-screen, always go for the full teleport into the jump, into back 2, into full combo. But in the corner, just take a couple % less if you're using Kung Lao, and you still get the corner anyways, but you don't risk anything. That's my opinion. And that's a lot on General Shao. So I hope you learned something. So in this last section, we're just going to talk some general things. Maybe some things we covered, but this is all going to be one grand finale, I suppose. So Shao, in the end, he's kind of a contrasting character. He wants to play honest neutral for most of the match. Like, he wants to outrange you with bigger buttons, play straight up, but the second he gets that knockdown, he wants to turn into a coin flipping machine monster because that's his moveset. He has good neutral, he has good buttons, but the second he gets the knockdown, he has the 50-50 moveset built in. It's what they effectively have designed him to go for. That's why they've given him the tools, right? So you better start flipping the coins. Now, in a lot of situations outside of unarmed stance, your reward's either going to be low, or you can have a higher reward, but then you're flipping a coin against yourself as well, because what you're going to go for is not necessarily safe on block. So part of the general theory is to make them scared enough that they'll just block, and once they just block, you can just throw them. And that's a lot safer than flipping a coin on yourself, right? Obviously, the reward is not as big, but that's kind of fighting game 101. And while Shao is good footsies, man, 2-2, back 1, back 2, forward 4, all that, he does have higher health. Even with Striker right now, I still have above average health. Striker takes away health, but I still have above average health. And considering you're flipping a lot of coins, honestly, you can play a little bit stupid sometimes, because he does have the jump too. And if you're given a button like this, you might as well use it. Obviously, jumping in Mortal Kombat is scary, because it's not just like Street Fighter where you get Shoryukened out of the air. Like, it could be one jab away, and that jab gets turned to full conversion, and then you just lost 35% of your life off a jump. So it's a lot scarier than getting Shoryukened in Street Fighter. But once again, you got the button. It's so good. You can do stupid things with it that other characters can't do, so just keep that in mind. Other things to keep in mind too, once again, 2-2, so good. Use it, use it, use it. But the reward on 2-2 is very low if you're not burning bar. If you want meterless damage, 1-2 is the way to go. Because 1-2, like at bare minimum, you're going to be pushing like 30-some%. And you'll be pushing 30% into plus 15 frame knockdown. Then you can go forward 2, you can go back 3, get your mix, or just regular pressure, because you're still plus 15. You can do a lot of things off plus 15. He's very greedy on the damage. Like, if you let yourself, you'll burn bar every time you touch the enemy. And you got to watch out for that. Like, obviously, the home run swing back 2 is great. You get that hit, man. You do want to burn the bar, like admittedly, right? Because you're going to get a lot of damage off that. That's not nothing. For a single meter, effectively 40% is not bad. But keep in mind, you do have meterless options. Just like 1-2 goes into dunk, and you can combo off that. Back 2 can also go into dunk, and you can get combo structure from there. So if you want to go a little easy, you can do what we saw earlier, right? And you can get, you know, close to 30% meterless. Once again, meterless, right? So you're not burning that bar. You can save the bar for breakers or other damaging situations. Now, depending on the height you land this at, you can go into back 3-2. And back 3-2 is not bad. Like 33% meterless. Obviously more damage than before. And more corner carry. We're an unarmed stance. Go for whatever mix, right? It's just difficult. Okay, just straight up. It is difficult. If you delay a little bit, back 3-2 is almost certainly going to drop, and you're almost certainly going to lose that combo. It is straight up hard. I don't find it reliable. If you're better than me, you have no problem, great. But I have problems. So if you're looking for meterless routes, you know, don't feel bad if you want to go for the easy combo. Like, you're still getting respectable meterless damage. It's not bad. You're still getting the great knockdown. You're still going to have the pressure after the knockdown, as we covered in all the other sections in the video. It's just something to keep in mind. So meterlessly, back 2, your option. You want to burn meter, you're going to get a lot of damage. If you want to keep it safe, not burn the meter, you still get respectable damage. If you're looking for meterless off basic hits, 2-2, you have to spend meter if you want anything. Unless, naturally, you know, you have cameos. Certain cameos that we talked about, like Lao, I think is really good. Lao or Sub-Zero, they'll give you a full combo. Other characters like Striker, maybe not. His utility lies elsewhere. But if you want meterless damage, 1-2 is the way to go. And once again, cameos we talked about. I really value cameos that give you a low. So Striker, Lao, Motaro, because just even something like back 1. Back 1 is such a workhorse. It's such a... It's better than most of the other buttons in the game. On its face, without considering some of the other factors, right? But it's always going to end in the overhead, and that overhead is all like, it's not punishable, but it's always going to be pretty negative of block, and you're literally just in their face. So being able to just mix that up with another low every now and then, you know, Striker will knock you down with a gigantic knockdown. You can set up whatever you want. Like, legitimately with Striker, the knockdown he gives you is so incredible that I can buff. Like, look at this. So we're going to jump at the same time after I buff, right? I jump first. I jump first. So if I do this, like, you're just keep thinking, okay, back 1-2, overhead, whatever, and I nab you with the low from Striker, I get a free buff. And it's still my turn. I get to go first. So it's just the little things, right? Like, if I jump first, I'm plus. That means that minimum, the next backbone 2 coming your way is gonna hurt more, right? Like, and buff lasts a good amount of time. So these are the kind of things. Like, it gives you more utility. Certain people like Striker, long knockdown. Lao, it leaves you restanded, so you can just kind of pressure them after the fact, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of options. And cameos are obviously so much more than just, I do the hit, I call the cameo, I get the big damage. You can do that with Shao. But I feel if you do that with Shao, yeah, maybe you'll do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7% more damage in the combo, but you're selling yourself short. The utility, Shao benefits a lot more than a lot of the other characters because, frankly, he needs it because he's not as good. If you want just raw damage from the camp, pick a different character, basically, right? There's so many characters that do that better than Shao ever will. So play to his strengths. And just being a little gimmicky, giving a low where normally you wouldn't get a low, getting pressure, you wouldn't get pressure normally. Striker, again, ambush assist is great. Lao hat assist is great. Motaro, low is plus on block. Gives you the teleport, gives you the projectile shield, gives you turret if you want to pressure. These are the kind of things you should be looking for, in my opinion. But that all said, I'm sort of rambling at this point, I guess. This is a longer guide. I haven't done one of the long guides in a while. That is General Shao. Maybe not one of the best characters in the game, although maybe if you're watching this 6 months from now, he got a million buffs and he is the best character in the game. Who knows? That's usually how it goes sometimes, right? But I like him. He's fun. I like big buttons characters. He's a big button character. I like the fact that he plays like a Mortal Kombat character, right? Like, so many memories of Mortal Kombat 9 and Mortal Kombat X. They're, you know, baked in your heads that Mortal Kombat's a game about 50-50s, right? And even if that's not necessarily true, that's the perception sometimes. And if you want a 50-50 character, yo, he's a good 50-50 character. And he just looks, he's Shao Kahn. Like, I know he's General Shao now. He's Shao Kahn. He's one of the coolest characters in fighting game history and video game history. He's a cool, and like, he'll put down his weapon and literally just beat the piss out of you with his bare hands. That's really cool. I like that, right? So he's just a cool damn character, and I hope this video taught you something about him and you learned something from this video. I have no idea how long this video is. I'm sure it's long. So if you could leave a like, that would be greatly appreciated. And otherwise, we're at the end of the video now. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Mortal Kombat.